It is 3 in the morning on December 26, 1980. A security patrol at the east gate of RAF Woodbridge, a U.S. Air Force base on the Suffolk coast, observes lights descending into the nearby Rendlesham Forest. They enter the woods to investigate. What they reported finding, and what their commanders reported 2 nights later, became the most famous and persistently contested UFO case in British history. The location is critical. During the Cold War, RAF Woodbridge and the nearby RAF Bentwaters were among the most strategically significant NATO installations in Europe, believed to hold tactical nuclear weapons. The personnel stationed here were trained, professional military observers, not a population easy to dismiss. Because these witnesses were highly credentialed professionals guarding nuclear assets, their reports carried a weight that civilian accounts usually lack. On that first night, security patrolmen, including Sergeant Jim Peniston and Airman John Burroughs, entered Rendlesham Forest to track the lights. Years later, Peniston claimed he touched a 9-foot triangular craft. But the documentation from 1980 is more limited. The men saw a glowing object that moved through the trees as they approached, and then disappeared. The following morning, investigators found 3 circular depressions in the ground, broken branches, and scorch marks on the trees at the site. They also recorded elevated radiation readings right at the alleged landing zone. The presence of physical ground traces, alongside the witness reports, meant this was no longer just a sighting. It was an active investigation. The events continued into a second night. Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt led a team back into the forest, documenting the investigation on a handheld tape recorder. On that tape, Halt and his team react to a red, sun-like light moving through the trees. It pulses and then breaks apart. Halt then describes star-like objects hovering in the sky that appear to beam light down toward the ground. He was sufficiently convinced by what he saw to write a formal memo to the British Ministry of Defence on January 13, 1981. Between the tape and the memo, the incident became a matter of official record. A senior officer was publicly stating that something unexplained had occurred near a nuclear-armed base. Skeptical investigators eventually offered a different set of facts. Astronomers noted a bright fireball meteor was recorded over southern England early on December 26th. The pulsing light Halt described corresponds in direction, flash rate, and timing with the Orford Ness Lighthouse, located approximately 5 miles away. When local Suffolk police were called to the scene during the first night, they reported seeing nothing except that lighthouse beam. The star-like objects Halt described match the positions of Sirius and other bright stars. Their light appears to flicker and move near the horizon due to atmospheric refraction, a common source of UFO reports. For skeptics, every anomaly reported by the airmen aligns with a demonstrable terrestrial phenomenon. The physical evidence on the ground also faced intense scrutiny. Investigators found the depressions in the ground were consistent with common rabbit diggings. The radiation readings, while cited as high by the airmen, were actually within the disputed normal range for that area. Even the scorched bark was questioned. The marks were found on the sides of the trees facing away from the alleged landing site. Under rigorous analysis, the physical proof of a landing craft is difficult to sustain. We are left with a contrast between the astronomical explanations and Halt's tape, which captures a senior officer reacting in real time to something he clearly found alarming. The lighthouse explanation is plausible, but it requires the witnesses to have been more confused than their professional training suggests. Jenny Randles, the journalist who first reported the case, stated in 2010 she was convinced no extraterrestrial craft was seen. However, scholar Dr. David Clark describes the situation as an impasse. Rendlesham remains a uniquely frustrating case. The prosaic explanations don't fully satisfy the human elements, but the extraordinary claims lack the evidence needed to be proved. In our next episode, the Season 3 Mystery Capstone, we take the 3 most unresolved mysteries of the season and go deeper. We will look at what the evidence actually allows us to say, without speculation. We'll find where the honest line between the known and the unknown falls.